Good evening. You're listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob. Alongside me tonight is RDV from the Great Midwest, and of course, Professor Pixel. He and I just finished up wrapping Season 3, Episode 1 of Twin Peaks, and we're reviewing all those episodes individually. That'll be posted here in another week. But before that, you'll get a chance, as pretty soon Fire Walk With Me is going to drop tonight. Rest in peace, Norm MacDonald, Saturday Night Live news anchor. We're going to talk a lot about him and what I consider to be his best work, and an okay movie for what it was, a forgotten gem called Dirty Work, starring a lot of people that have a lot of interesting things about it, including a Chihuahua wielding Shooter McGavin as the realistic evil tycoon who gets his comeuppance with, I don't know if that's Horatio Sands or some calorically challenged individual that's his stooge buddy. But guys, welcome to the show. It's been a while since we've had a chance to do something like this, too. We may potentially have a secret surprise guest number 4 here shortly. We'll see about that. Here's a hint. This person's never on time. Let's start going around the ring here a little bit. Pixel, what's your initial thoughts on this movie?
I expected it to be funny, and it was. Norm MacDonald is fantastic, and I'm glad we got a chance to watch this to help celebrate his life a little. May not know this is the year I was born that this came out.
98, really?
But that makes me feel old. And I've never had a chance to see it, so getting the chance to this time was great. And it has the faults that I would say there are in a 90s comedy from time to time. But overall, it's just so hilarious, you don't care. Even the silliest things, they get you on the floor. That's just my initial take.
Yeah, Dirty Work, obviously, the name of the movie is as a revenge-based business that him and his buddy formed because they learned a life lesson early on from their father, Jack Warden, who was a boxer. Basically says, and life, son, don't ever take crap from anybody. And really, and not that you want to get too serious about something because it's not want to do it, but it is neat when you can suffer the consequences of taking the fate of your life in your own hands. And whether that's good or that's bad, they have a lot of fun in here. And yeah, he gets the girl and everything works out towards the end. But this movie is basically one of those SNL type skits that's not quite good enough to make a movie's worth of material that you go, oh my God, this really works. It's one of those ones that I think SNL is really getting their feet underneath them when it comes to their characters, because they realize they can make a fortune if they produced it and everything else on their own. And what they would do is they have other comedy people come and help out, because in here you've got Don Rickles as the movie theater manager. You've got Bob Saget as the guy who directed it. He did not have a clean act. His was very adult before he cleaned up for television. So he directed, he knows what he's doing. Chevy Chase is in here with several cameos. Overall, it's a juvenile, dumb movie. And if you like Adam Sandler and those kinds of things, that's the kind of movie that we're talking about too. So Norm MacDonald, when I think of him, I think of a lot of things, but having been around a lot longer than the millennial across from, let me ask you, Professor Pixel, what did you know about Norm MacDonald when you found out he passed away recently?
Well, I mean, I knew he was a comedian. I knew him mostly from the middle, RDV's in the back. And
Gotcha.
It's seeing him on there. He was always a joy to see. His antics were one of the best parts of that show when he was on. And so seeing some of his acts, and that's all I really knew. I had never seen him in a movie before now. And it was fantastic.
Well, RDV, let's go over to you here. Here in Central Florida right now, we're having some severe thunderstorms, so we're having some technical issues. I believe you're back and present here for you. What did you know about Norm MacDonald when you found out that he had passed away? How familiar with his work were you?
I've been following him up to the point he died. All this stuff. From the beginning of many days on Saturday Night Live to his failed ESPN show on Comedy Central. Yep. Actually, it was sports, but on Comedy Central though. To his talk show, the Norm MacDonald Show, his podcasts, all that stuff. Yeah, he kept it well hidden though that he had they had cancer for the past 10 years because I hate this because he didn't look like he had cancer. He just looked like he was getting older. Until you see there's a video that surfaced just before he passed away. You could see the bags under his eyes and stuff. If the guy's only 61 years old, he looked like he was like going 75, 76. So you could tell he was like, sick. He was losing weight. But going through all this, I was like, it was actually a really good film, and I think his reason why this film didn't do so well in theaters is because, like I said, people like a certain type of thing. They're trained monkeys. When you go outside the norm with Norm, either you like it or you don't want to watch it because you're told, oh, this is bad, this is filth. Remember, this is the 90s. Remember, you couldn't watch certain things, otherwise you're chastised for watching these. Like these were like, so. I don't know. I liked Norm MacDonald. I love his comedy. I love the fact that he's like John Rickles. The fact that he had John Rickles in here too, playing off with each other, was just fun. We broke Picasso. Apparently.
Sorry, I'm just picturing the movie theater scene.
Yeah, well, the thing I mentioned to RDV when you're rebooting was that this movie was like what they were doing before, like with Night at the Roxbury and this whole area, where they would have supporting other people, whether from Saturday Night Live or other things, come in to help carry it. And so having icons like Don Rickles in there, Chevy Chase, help carry it because you do get to play off somebody. I agree with you on that totally. Now, RDV, you're kind of in that middle age between myself, Professor Pixel, who was born the year this movie came out in 98. So he's the millennial of the group, and we always like to pick on him for that. But what's interesting is I remember when O.J. Simpson was found declared innocent back in the early mid-90s, and the whole thing going on, and it was like such a huge news thing. It was on par with when the Challenger explosion happened. You kind of knew where you're at because you saw the verdict live. Everybody stopped what they were doing. Radios, TVs cut towards it. And when he was pronounced innocent, basically, it was just amazing. And the thing that relates to this with Norm MacDonald is he went on and on as the news anchor, which Chevy Chase did it as well on Saturday Night Live way back when. He just totally shit on OJ and would tell these OJ jokes. And the thing about it is he'd kind of like save it towards the end, and he'd just start doing it like week after week. And it got to be his thing where he'd go through and whatever his nightly update would be, his weekend update, I guess it was what it was called. Then he'd have some sort of whatever, unlike O.J. Simpson or whatever, and he'd make some comment. And some of these jokes were just so good and so bitter, but he delivered them with that kind of like, oh yeah, everybody knows that's what it is. And that's the genius behind him, is that for a lot of comedians that rely on slapstick humor, and I do not consider Norm MacDonald like it, that can work and it's nice and it's yucca. But this guy got fired from Saturday Night Live because the boss was like, yo, I'm friends with him. Stop making jokes about my boy. And he's like, screw you. I'm just going to keep doing it. And so I like the fact that he didn't take any shit about it, went to do his own thing. And a lot of times when we see comics go on to movies or TVs, they really sanitize their product to appeal to a wider audience. Unfortunately, that watering down the comedy, I think, doesn't work as well as maybe other people that try to do it, like a musician, let's say, and whatnot. But yeah, Norm MacDonald was tremendous in it. It's a revenge movie, and it's got Norm MacDonald. So let's just talk about some of the favorite scenes on there. Professor Pixel, you got one that sticks out?
Yes. The first one where Don Rickles is basically telling, because these two are getting jobs to try to save their dad. Don Rickles is the abusive manager at the theater, and he starts insulting Norm MacDonald's co-star, Artie, named Sam in the movie. And whenever he's just going on about how fat he is, and oh gosh, I wish I could remember the exact wording he uses. Baskin Robbins called. They only have 5 flavors.
You're sweating.
I mean, that's such a tame joke, but if somebody said that in the movie today, do you think people would get pissed, right? I mean, it's just, everybody's so sensitive. My goodness.
Well, yeah.
This is light humor.
like I said, offensive jokes, that Chappelle used to do, whereas probably I think the Chappelle Show probably was the last offensive comedy you could do before people just scared, at the point where you can't do that, you're hurting my feelings. Who cares about your feelings, man? We're laughing at you because it's funny.
Yeah. And then there was the physical comedy thing where about 3 or 4 times when they would do something stupid and they would get thrown out of a building or a window.
The window.
Only him.
You could tell it was him jumping, and they were just filming, and he would land splat, or he'd land in the big giant dumpster. It was just stupid and dumb, but you expected it.
Chris Farley's parts are just hilarious. The bar scene, and he's like, oh, they're gonna fight. Quick, what it reminds me, he's like, why 8? Or whatever. He's like, you put on Y7. It's like, what? If you like pina coladas, they're playing.
And the Saigon hooker that bit off Chris Farley's nose.
I like the fact that they get revenge. He's like, here, listen to me. That's how we're gonna do it. Sure, it's a good thing we dressed as rental cops, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna make them go in there and make them think that the fake cops, let them know that fake cops, are going around people, robbing people. So then he's like, and I literally calls cops. Hello, real cops? Real cops? So it's he's like, and then the cops show up and they're like, because the cop and the guys start beating up the frat guys, start beating up the cops, they're arrested. He's like, hold on, we'll take care of this one. He's like, and they already just punches one guy and knocks him out. He's like, hold on, this one's mine. He punches the guy. He's like, and Artie just takes him down. It's stupid little humor like that, but it's so Norm.
Yeah. It's like it's a Chihuahua-filled weekend, because we just offline recorded season 3, episode 1 of Twin Peaks that we're reviewing, Professor Pixel and I, and there's a very important scene that sets up one of the main mysteries of season 3, at least to this point, is that this lady finds a dead body next to her, or her neighbor, but the lady who's dealing with the cops is carrying this Chihuahua the entire time, so it's got an extended scene. And in this film, we've got Shooter McGavin, and he's carrying around his dog the entire team or the entire time on this movie, and it's just absolutely phenomenal. And there's other dog jokes in here which I won't even mention. Visuals, dogs humping each other, things. What?
Let me ask you, do you think he's banging his dog without a thumb up his ass the entire time?
No, it's just, you've got to have a good bad guy, even in a comedy thing. And when you're doing revenge, you can't get too serious or too bitter, because then it's not funny anymore. And that's where I think Norm MacDonald kind of towed the line. And you mentioned before about sanitizing things down. And here, they find out that, accidentally, that someone's like, yeah, if somebody could get back at my boss, I'd give you $10, $20. And they're like, that's a genius idea. It's such a simple hook. Yeah, we'll get back at people for revenge, and we'll get paid a lot of money. And Jack Warden's the father that, he does a great job for what time he has on there. And then Chevy Chase, one thing about Chevy I have to say is he's a funny guy. And even though he's in a few scenes as a doctor that in every scene loses like a body part to the mafia that he loaned money to, he doesn't overpower the scenes. He does what he needs to do. He elevates other people. It really, really works. All these side scenes in here, they're put together. The movie did not go on too long either, because if this was like a 95, 100-minute movie or 2-hour movie, it would not work at all, too.
I gotta say, I love the simple plot of this thing too. How it neatly wraps up. It's like, they're tricked in there by Christopher McDonald, into destroying this building, and then it turns out he just wanted to destroy it, just because he wanted to renovate it, figure it out. And Kathy, who is played by Trailer Howard, those who remember watching Monk, she was assistant on there. She's also on Two Guys Girls Place. Yes, cute woman, cute actress. So her grandma's in there. They have a little fight. But what's funny though is that how it's already evolved is because he always says Mitch, Norm MacDonald is a tape recorder. He's only doing that themselves. Unknowingly, he recorded the whole conversation of Mitch. So that's and then they basically want to use the tape to get a rap. And this is where we come into the skunks, army of prostitutes, a homeless man, and you get Chris Farley, who has no nose, and then brownies with hallucinogenic actives.
Note to self: Aunt Jenny is your aunt.
This is a stupid note to selves. Speaking of note to selves, I'm going to send a note to myself to go, wait a minute. I usually had this big, huge buildup for Eglantine from I Love Comics, the creator of comics, the semi-Saddleman singer, blah, 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 blah. And now I'm staring at Comic Book Agenda. Welcome, sir. Good evening to Dirty War. What's up?
Did a little name change. My goodness, I'm like being driven crazy hearing you guys misquote this movie. I took Gail out to this. Actually, she took me. I was thinking this is going to be stupid. This is going to be dumb. Why are we going to see this movie? And ended up just laughing my ass off. The one that got me was when they were hired to mess up this guy's house, so they're putting fish everywhere. And they go, oh my gosh, they're home. Let's go run off in the next room. And you just see them holding these two fish. And the conversation is, yeah, I think we could do the deal. I'm feeling very confident. What smells like fish? He goes, wait, why'd you say that? Is that some sort of code? And then you start hearing all the gunfire, and they're just standing there, big, wide-eyed, just holding these. You don't see any of the violence outside. And that just floored me. I mean, literally, I slid in my chair. I was laughing so hard. There are some scenes in this movie that are just golden like that. And you're right. It is a lot of fun. The thing thrown into the dumpster is obviously a dummy, though. But I do like the fact if you notice, anytime they were kicked out of a building or a window or whatever, he was kicked out, and then Artie Lang just kind of walks out. Yeah. So it's like whoever it was that was trying to muscle him always throws Norm MacDonald out the window, but leaves Artie Lang alone. It's just those little touches, though, I thought were pretty good.
We used to see that same humor recycled in My Name is Earl. That's what it was. Same kind of humor. Yeah, the dumb sidekick. We'd always get the clean getaway.
I'm a huge fan of My Name is Earl. One of the best written TV shows, comedies out there, with one of the hottest Latino actresses out there. But it's. The movie itself, I gotta tell you, is one of those where I think the scenes are. They're. What am I trying to say?
It's an extended skit. That's all
it is. It is, and that's one thing. Bob Saget, by the way, directed this movie, and there are some times when you can actually hear him say action. Like they'll just be sitting there, and then all of a sudden they'll start their lines. But when it hits big. The bit with with testing the drugs is one of those, in my opinion. Wait, I'm feeling a little rash, and then you look over, and he's like, it's just those things really do hit.
Well, when we had gotten the news that Norm MacDonald passed, it was like, yeah, we gotta, cover that. And it was just the timing of it happened right when we were live last week. So we're like, yeah, let's do this movie too. So I'm glad you came on. What I wanted to kind of bring up with you though, E, because as we talked, RDV's in that middle age between us, and the Millennial Luger Professor Pixel was born the year this came out. But you and I go back to the very early 80s. As childhood friends and all that. And you and I both have had this conversation briefly before about how things were different in the 80s, 90s, and we cover that here on the Xtreme Movie Show. But Adam Sandler was the guy that was on that show on MTV. It was the first show that they had too. Yep. And instead of having VJs, they started having some produced stuff or whatever. And you and I are like, what the hell is going on? We don't know who this guy was or whatever. But by this point, he had grown away from Saturday Night Live, as well as a few other people. Chevy Chase is and Bill Murray, they're one of the first big ones. A lot of people went on to do some great films in the 80s. But at this particular point, what made you think that Adam Sandler, his juvenile type movies that he still does to this day, how do you think that actually became a successful thing? Because I'm going to be straight honest with you. This movie was okay to me. I just was not a big fan of these types of movies at all. And they were not the comedy that you and I grew up from the 70s and 80s. So I just don't know how that you thought that became successful. And I say Adam Sandler because even though we're talking Norm MacDonald, it's Saturday Night Live, and both these guys are.
It's Happy Madison. Movie. It's Happy Madison, and that's Adam Sandler's production company. I have a theory on this, if you allow me to indulge.
That's why
Ours-
I asked, sir. Please enunciate.
Ours is the first generation of adults who realized, well, wait a second, if I'm paying my bills and I'm being responsible, my kids are fed, then why do I have to put away childish things? That was the old saying, it's time to put away childish things. But wait a second, if it's my money, I could be however I want. I could do however I want, so long as my responsibilities are met. And I think that's one of the cool things about this generation of comedy, because while it happened in the 90s and it was entertaining Venkman, these people are of our generation. Adam Sandler's our age. So Norm MacDonald was a little bit older, but David Spade, that whole Happy Madison crew is our generation, Rob. And so we're the ones that said, it's okay to just hang out and be silly and be stupid. And the truth is during this period right here, I was working in a movie theater, raising 2 kids. You and I believe you were off on your own. You were married at this time too. So we're growing up, but still when we got together, we would play Xbox and we talked stupid still. And we would and I think that we are the first generation to really embrace this. So here comes some movies done by some people who are our age. And they're just showing us what we didn't know we wanted to see. Granted, I think a movie like this, as I said, is they're just, it's better to watch scenes, and I think it's better to talk about than to watch the whole movie as a whole, because they're the in between the brilliance, there is a lot of quiet parts. I think there's, like I said, I don't think Bob Saget is a great director, but allowing people to break out of their shell is what this did. And I think we're the first generation. I think that's why this really resonated. Billy Madison was the first of them. Adam Sandler did a movie called Going Overboard that I think I'm the only person that's ever seen in the entire world other than Adam Sandler. But that one didn't hit, but Billy Madison really hit, and Hollywood went, wait a second, that's the one. Let's do that stuff from here on in.
I might be the other person who saw Overboard. If that's the one where he's on the ship.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yes.
It's got Billy Zane in it for some, because
I know.
Billy Zane was friends with like the caterer or something, or like his girlfriend was. And after Billy Madison hit, he had The Waterboy, which was a freaking it was Happy Gilmore, and then The Waterboy. And from that point, Hollywood paid attention, because this is 3 big hits in a row. And so why don't we put more of those movies out? And anytime these guys couldn't sell a movie to Hollywood, Adam Sandler or get hired, Adam Sandler would say, write your own movie, I'll produce it. And so you got Dirty Work, so you got Joe Dirt, so so you got Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo, far better than a lot of people give credit to, but in my opinion, Joe Dirt's the winner.
I think he's playing Marco Polo, water polo.
Norm MacDonald. I was going to say, Norm MacDonald to me suffers from Will Ferrell syndrome, in that they have good material, but they themselves, I don't know, are the best people to deliver it. Whereas you can take somebody like Chevy Chase, and he's just funny. And to me, it's a totally different kind of comedian. Whereas Adam Sandler, even if this stuff's juvenile, that just doesn't work for me. Like Chris Farley, I don't know how anyone can sit through, like, say, Beverly Hills Ninja, and that's probably his magnum opus, and those two words should never be said together.
Tommy Boy for Chris Farley.
I can't even watch it. I'm just saying, I just despise Chris Farley's humor, because he's awesome, not funny. None of that's funny to me at all. But Norm MacDonald, with his, before you hopped on, I was going through the whole 90s thing about how he'd gotten fired from all the OJ jokes, and how he had almost like a bitter quality to him, because he just shit on OJ all the way through. And
I loved it.
Yeah, I did too, and it was awesome. And it's kind of what we wanted to hear, and the comedian telling it made us go, "Oh, it's okay for us to still tell jokes occasionally." But yeah, it's just one of those things where I go, Norm, even though I guess he had cancer or whatever it was, and had it for a while and then passed away, I'd been curious to see what he'd come up with, because some of his more recent stuff's a bit more, I think, back to basics with how he was, a bit more, not bitter, but you toe that edge a little bit too, and certainly for this day and time doesn't seem to fit in with a lot of comics. Yeah, but yeah, you're right, totally. This is a movie that's like a one-off. You watch it and you're done with it, and that's pretty much it. You talk about some of the scenes, you watch a few of them, and then you're like, yeah, I YouTubed it, I'm done.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a great movie for the YouTube generation because you can watch the skunk scene, or you can watch the Saigon horror, the dead hookers in the trunk, or my favorite.
Here's another
my
one.
favorite is them having this really good, mature conversation on a rooftop, and Norm goes, "Wait, are you pissing off the side of the building?" And you hear this guy down below. Hey.
See, now that's simple humor and it's easy, but you still got to have people that can sell it, and that's the problem today. You just don't have people doing that.
I think one thing about Norm MacDonald is he's almost got an Andy Kaufman kind of sense of humor. Now, Andy Kaufman to me was just a shit heap. He was funny at times, but he was mean to people. Norm MacDonald is the same way. Not that he's mean to people, but what he does is he'll tell a joke and he doesn't care if you. It's almost like he wants the laugh, but he doesn't care if you laugh because he already knows it's funny. It's kind of a hard to describe because I do it myself sometimes. I'll say weird things just to get the reaction. Doesn't have to necessarily be a laugh. It just has to make people go, what? That's fine with me. So long as it gets what? That's really good.
That's
and
funny.
Norm MacDonald comes off that way as well.
He actually said that he's like, people are, he's like, because I forget who was asking, but someone asked him about how do you deal with the heckler? He's like, I'm here, he's like, you're here telling jokes, like, maybe 10 people that like it, so I tell the other ones to shut up. It's just for the 10 people in the crowd that like my jokes.
But as far as being funny, I mean, if you watch any of the myriad of tribute to Norm MacDonald, the comedian side he was funny, and I do too. One of the things that he could do, and he actually tried to do many times, is to take a simple kid's joke and make adults laugh with it. These are those, we want to hear a dirty joke. Boy fell into a mud puddle. He would take that and he would just form it into something brilliant, and it would still have the same beginning and the same ending. It's just all that stuff in the middle is what made it funny. The famous joke that he told, if you haven't heard it yet, it's called the moth joke.
Yes.
Go watch that. It is a simple kid's joke that everybody has heard, but Norm MacDonald crafted this, find it in any riff book club thing, joke, and just turned it into something absolutely freaking brilliant. And that's one thing that happens in this movie as well. Granted, there's some things I think they're up that, hi, real cops? I thought that was so clunky. That was so clunky. Maybe that's the whole point of it.
I love it. I love it.
But the fact that, hey, police, we have that, because you always get that in a movie. Hey, yeah, they're the police. Why are you asking on the, hey, it's just an identifier for the audience. But hi, real cops?
That's great.
It's just normal, and that's what I liked about it. This is what only Norm would say. Like it's weird, but you laugh at it though.
I know. The other thing that got me, I don't know if y'all mentioned it, was the mooning of the movie line, and then they stop. He was supposed to keep driving.
It's like.
I love that line.
The thing that made me crack up the most was the theater scene. Like he's like, Men in Black. Yeah, who like to have sex
with other
men.
Each other, and then he's like playing Allison, Artie Lane's character looks over. He's like, "Note to self, bitch just looked."
Well,
I didn't look.
Dude, this movie, look, as Robert and I said, I don't think this is a great film. I love it. I watch it all the time, but I can recognize its flaws. It's okay to have movies like this, I do the same thing with The Waterboy. I like Happy Madison movies. I like Adam Sandler movies, even though I know some of them. I don't like all of them. Jack and Jill is crap no matter which way.
Too.
But the thing is I think they knew it also. Because if you watch this film, you mentioned the movie theater scene, there's a random let's let Don Rickles riff on people scene. There's just no need for it. No, that was not necessary. That whole scene could be cut out.
Totally necessary. If you have Don Rickles, you better give him some screen time and let him do his thing.
But that's what I'm saying. I actually believe so they were writing the script. Hey, I could get Don Rickles. Oh, we got to write him a scene. And
right.
Yeah, but I agree with you. If Don Rickles is in your movie, you let him go. Don't casino him. By the way, if you ever see that movie, great movie, they've got Don Rickles. I think he says 2 words. That's wrong. Yeah, let Don Rickles go and be Don Rickles. But it's out. I believe in my heart it's there because he's friends with them, and so why not put him in our movie?
Well, let's go around for some final thoughts there too. You said a mouthful in a short period of time. Did you have any
sorry.
No, it's great. Over here. But I just wanted to let you know what we talked about, Norm, before you popped on too. So, was there anything you wanted to add about Dirty Work or Norm MacDonald in general?
There's a movie that doesn't get love, and it's much darker than this one. And I would recommend it as well. It's got the same sick sense of humor and everything. It's called Screwed. It's a movie though that you might feel like you want to take a shower after. It stars Norm MacDonald, and I want to say what's his name? Very famous comedian, black comedian now. For some reason, Dave Chappelle.
Yes.
And he plays the butler to a rich woman, and she leaves all the money to the dog. So of course, it's basically what was that? The Aristocats. He wants to steal the dog and get money for it and all that kind of stuff. And it is a lot of fun. It's very funny as well. Does not get any respect. So I would definitely point that out and watch as many Norm clips as you can because they're freaking funny. So
nice. That's my Screwed. RDV, what about you?
I would do yourself a favor. If you've never heard of Norm MacDonald, type in YouTube, type in I'm Not Norm.
Yes,
database
exactly.
of Norm MacDonald stuff. And watch it. If you think, I agree with Ingleton says about his movie acting. Some of his roles weren't really that great, but they weren't meant to be there. They're meant to be Norm, and that's why. Because it's funny, his name's Norm, but he's not normal. he's weird, and that's what I like about it. But I would say his strengths are his freaking TV interviews. When he walks in on like Conan, he going on Jay Leno or that stuff, he just pulls a whole Don Rickles and just steals the show. He's done this since the early 90s. He comes on there. Like in the 90s at Conan, he was hitting on one of the models, and like another girl, he was like, she was here to talk about the movie. He's like, it's a crap movie. He's like, I want to talk to the girl. It's like, I just love how unfiltered he is, and it works because there's no one real like him when it comes to like Hollywood. He actually was real. He said what he came to. That's why he lost his job at SNL, because he said what was on his mind. He wasn't gonna play a script. And
what about you, Professor Pixel? What do you got? Final thoughts? You're the noob when it comes to Norm MacDonald.
Well, compare, yeah, I am. But no, he was phenomenal, and I really loved this movie. I know, obviously, like Engleton says, it has a lot of flaws, but I disagree in only watching clips of it. I liked watching the whole thing through, and so if you have a chance, check it out, revisit it. It's worth it.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Dirty Work, Norm MacDonald, rest in peace. E, thanks for showing up tonight and giving us some feedback. I know you had a lot of movie theater experience, so I was curious as the things that you're going to say. And I want to say thanks to RDB and, of course, Professor Pixel for showing up, too. Yeah, rest in peace, Norm MacDonald. Sometimes we don't get enough comedy in our life, and this is one of those movies. It's a one-off. Give it a shot. You can do worse. You can do better, but it's hard to do, Norm, and you're absolutely right. So Screwed might be a future selection here on the Xtreme Movie Show. For all of us guys here, I'd like to thank you all for listening. Jim, thanks for showing up here and chat with us too again tonight. I'm glad that you sort of remember some of the scenes, and of course, everyone remembers dead hookers.
Yeah.
So for everybody here, have a good night. As always, stay extreme.
There's a dead hooker in the